2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
How do I stay motivated to help people when they're not motivated?
Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers.
We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. All right, Brannon, this will be a fun one today. I didn't say good if you heard that.
Yeah. Hey, you know what I was thinking about today?
What?
I was thinking about that time you got, so I woke up with a sore throat, and I was thinking about the time you got sick.
Oh,
and, yeah. I was accusing you of being a faker. Like, for like days, I was like, "Oh, you faker!" Like, and then you ended up having rheumatic fever and almost died.
I remember you. It was actually, I think it was actually around Thanksgiving, but it was probably 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And I still remember a picture that Mom and Dad took us down to Blvd Park, and I'm crunched over inside of a little jacket. I can barely move, and you were calling me a faker, and you guys were all at the playground.
I was mad that you were getting so much attention for being sick.
Like, he already gets enough attention as it is. He doesn't need to play the sick card too.
Yeah, I learned a good lesson that day.
Yeah. Well, I hope it doesn't turn to rheumatic fever for you. I hope you're getting the right treatment and doing it the right way by using your doctor.
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad you're alive and kicking still. So yeah. I'm glad you made it through.
I'm glad we're still here too, man. Hey, before we jump into our guests, I just wanted to mention really quick, Brannon, that we are now live again on the Radiant Dawn Conference. We've got new dates scheduled, March 30th through April 2nd. It is basically one of the best things that we do together. It's been one of my favorite things we've done over the years.
So this is a women's retreat.
3
Southern
days.
Utah.
It's about coming, and it's so much more than just talking about betrayal trauma. This is about reclamation of the heart.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, go to radiantdawnconference.com. I'm positive this thing is going to sell out.
We already got signups before we even really went live.
We didn't even go live, and we already had 4 signups. So radiantdawnconference.com if you're interested. It is, as I said, I think about the best thing that we do is our retreats.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's get into it here. We got Cody on with us today. Cody, welcome to the show.
Yes, good morning. God bless you both.
Thank you. If you could just give us a little bit of background of what's going on with you, and then ask any questions that you have.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. First, I have to name, and this is something that I've come to find in my story that's really important before I enter into certain spaces, is really just naming what's going on in my body. And so currently I'm feeling really anxious. I feel a tightness in my chest. I feel my heart pumping. And that's really, I think, in response to who may be listening, how I may be judged, who will like me, who will reject me, things like this. And this is an internal battle that constantly goes on within me and that I've had to work through.
That's great, Cody. So basically what you're doing is you're naming it to tame it right now. You've got some anxiety about being on here, but you're here. Yeah. And glad you are. And I think as we talk, you'll see that it'll become pretty natural. And so glad you're here and glad you're stepping in with some courage.
Yeah, thank you. So my name's Cody Parker. I'm 38 years old, just turned 38 November 7th. Thank you for your congratulations, everyone.
Happy birthday.
My struggle throughout my life has come from a lot of different aspects, but I've dealt with sexual addiction for the majority of my life. I've abused alcohol, I've abused drugs. And what really broke the camel's back in 2017 was my first affair that got found out through a fake Facebook that I created. My wife found it, and it created some hardship. And then 10 months later, I entered into another affair that lasted about 10 months. And again, I got found out the exact same way through a fake Facebook that I created. My wife found, and it created tragedy. There was a whole movie scene scenario where I came home from church, all my clothes, everything was out in the driveway. It was Hollywood, but it was incredibly traumatic for my wife, incredibly traumatic for myself and for my family. And so now, 3.5 years later, God's put me on an intense trajectory towards ministry of others and the continuous healing of myself. I spent 90 days at an inpatient facility in Georgia called Hope Quest, where I consider that to be the most majestic opportunity that's ever been granted for me. No one wants to get to that place after going through what they've done and doing things to others that they don't deserve. But there I got to heal. I got to truly see what it looks like to be delighted in, to be given space, to be expressive of my opinions, my creativity, my ideas, to learn language, and to be told that I love you without people running away from all the sin that I've caused and created. And so, of course, my history has brokenness, family divorce, childhood sexual trauma, bestiality, even a lot of things that are littered with unhealth that I didn't recognize and realize until I got older and started doing some of this work. That, that stuff's not okay. The enmeshment, the triangulation between my parents, how that panned out wasn't okay. I'm an older brother of 3, and I took on real early this idea that I needed to be the parent. So I parented my parents and I parented my brothers, and none of it produced real health until recently, as I began to unearth the hardships and the trauma. And now God's been blessing that as I continue now to walk with others and find healing. So really neat to be here with you guys, and really look forward to seeing how you guys can engage.
Cody, can I ask you something here? I don't want to dig way back into all of your trauma, and I mean, just from the little bit that you just shared, I imagine you were there was heaps of trauma and shame and all kinds of stuff going on. Here you are, and really talking openly and talking with confidence and transparency. You talk about Hope Quest, but what was it that kind of took you from that place of living in the darkness to more living in the light? Like what was required to get there?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Something I heard you just say was living in the light. I remember vividly being at Hope Quest, and I was taking a walk by myself, and it was sunny, but the sun rays were coming just down through the clouds. And I remember standing and looking up, and I was praying to God, and this beam of light was was right on me. It was a sun ray. And I remember I wrote down in my journal, stand in the light, which is just what you said, to be in the light, to be known. When I first got to Hope Quest, first thing that they had us do was begin writing these things called IFABs. And it's an acronym for I, feel, about, because. And every day we had to write 5. And every day, I think in the morning when we came together as a group, we would stand up and we would share our IFABs. And I remember it was on like day 3 where I was awkwardly trying to share my own IFABs. I looked around and I saw everyone's delight in who I was as a person and what I had to bring and offer. And I started crying. I started just bawling, because what it felt like was people were desiring to know me and were allowing of space for Cody. And as I've been through therapy these days, I've come to find that the greatest thing that I desire is to be desired. And my heart always sinks and I feel loved and embraced and engaged. And I think where my parents had failed in that, or at least I remember, this is what I was being given at Hope Quest, and what made me kind of realize that I'm okay, that there are people that love me and want to delight in me.
So here you are, an almost 40-year-old man, and it took something like this to end up in a place like Hope Quest, to have an experience for maybe the first time in your life that you can actually remember tangibly feeling of being imperfect. The reason you're at Hope Quest is because of your imperfections, because of your flaws, because of the things you've done to blow people's lives up, including your own. And in that space is where you found, in the darkest parts of what you were facing and sharing, you found other people who were saying, you're still lovable. I love you. And having that emotional experience is actually part of what I think is a pivotal thing for the people that Brannon and I see all the time when they finally have that start to break through. Even the imagery of that ray of light, like they're so calloused over with darkness that when the cracks finally open up and the light starts to come through, that light of love of like, you are lovable. When somebody finally gets that, that's when there's a whole new trajectory that happens in life.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm hearing you say, Cody.
Well, it's interesting. Like, if you look at sex addiction, like what were you really searching for with your sex addiction?
Pursuit of my heart, of my playfulness, of my play is a huge component of what I've come to find in myself. So I'll leave it at that. Pursuit of my playfulness.
So are you saying that you wanted someone to pursue you? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So you look at these two stories you just told. On one hand, within the sex addiction and living in that dark, you're trying to get that need met. You want to be seen. You want to be loved. You want to be connected to. You want to be pursued. And so you went and found that in those unhealthy, secretive ways. At Hope Quest, there you are. And they're almost, they walk you through these activities to be vulnerable. And it's like, okay, here I am, vulnerable. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. And bam, in those groups, you're loved.
Yeah.
You're accepted. You're seen. You're getting the very thing there that you were seeking in your sex addiction, but you're getting it in a healthy way. Right. And that reverses that shame. That shame is saying I'm unlovable and I need to be pursued. I need to be seen. I need to be desired. And when you experience that vulnerability of I'm broken and I'm loved at the same time, then you start to heal. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's a pretty cool indicator. You know, you just checked in. You can almost hear the recovery happening. You just checked in with your own body before we even started the thing, identified your emotions, and then you proceeded to just say about 4 or 5 things that take people years to speak out loud just in your introduction. And it makes me think of, like, you can hear that you're making peace with your story. And when you start to make peace with that story, it doesn't have to have the power over you that you thought it would when shame was in the driver's seat. Now, you probably still are feeling a little bit exposed. There's a pretty good chance you're going to end up having a vulnerability hangover after this call today.
Oh yeah.
You know, right. And that's okay. You're going to learn you're going to take care of yourself. You're going to cope with those feelings, and you are going to make a difference in the life of other people. my wife sent me this quote a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just thinking of it as you were talking. It says, "You overcoming your deepest, darkest demons will be the blueprint for someone else to overcome theirs. So don't give up."
Wow.
And that's kind of what you're here doing right now. And hopefully we'll be able to be helpful to you in the same way that you're going to be helpful to our listeners.
Yeah.
If we can shift gears just a little bit, it kind of goes along with what you were just saying, Tyler. But the question that we asked was, how do you stay motivated to help people when they're not motivated themselves? So Cody, you've worked this process of recovery, and we could dig in forever on, I'd love to hear all the intricacies of every piece of your healing process. But now I'm curious why you're asking that question. So you're helping people now in their healing process. Could you give us a little bit of what's going on there and some of your frustration there?
Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking earlier as you were talking about Hope Quest, that this was a perfect segue, that what I was experiencing there was that others were delighting in me and pursuing me. And so now that I've been called into ministry where I'm facilitating groups and walking with other men who are struggling in the same areas that I have, I'm finding that I'm facing different frustrations with how men in the group may be pursuing themselves, pursuing their own recovery, and still choosing and pursuing me. And so part of what my question is how do I stay motivated as a facilitator, as a leader in this area of unwanted sexual behavior and addiction, to continue giving my best and my authentic self to the men when I'm not getting fed back, maybe what I feel entitled to, or what I think I should be getting, if that makes sense.
It's a really good question. There's actually a couple different directions that I'd like to go with it. So the first one is, thinking about that idea of, there's a reason why mental health professionals, especially inside the realm of addiction, last less than 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you get into the work because you want your clients to pay it back to you, you're in the wrong business, with addiction, because addiction is so self-centered by nature that there's not much to go around, after that. So that's the first thought that I was having. The other thought that I have is the question is actually a very good question of how do you stay motivated in helping the very people who you can really relate to because you've been there before, and now you see that maybe they're struggling with motivation and they're not grasping they haven't grasped the light rays that you've seemed to find in the last few years and started to apply in your life. And part of that now is that you're turning around and helping other men. Yeah, that's a good question. One thing that's coming up is that you use the word "I'm entitled to it." What happens when you're entitled?
Oh, yeah. I probably shouldn't have used the word, but sometimes we just need to.
It's okay. It's fair.
Yeah. I think entitlement does come. But what happens, I know for sure within me, when it's not met, is resentments are the very closest next thing. And resentments inside me lead to isolation, and they lead to unhealthy coping mechanisms. So I use entitlement, I think, because I've been there and I've had to process through that, but it still comes up at times. I have healthy mechanisms to soothe and process, but I still find myself feeling this way at times. What is wrong with me? So there's bits of shame. What is wrong with me, and why others aren't pursuing recovery as I am? And I think I desire for them to be on fire like I am, and maybe just feel a little defeated.
Cody, I'm going to call you out a little bit, so brace yourself. And the reason I really can call you out, because I relate. I've been in your shoes,
dude. Amen.
So a couple of things. one, what are your expectations?
Mm-hmm.
And two, why do you do what you do? Why do you help people in recovery? So what do you think?
Good. Yeah. Thank you. I'll answer the second question first, because I've come to find that one of my greatest gifts is the tenderness of my heart. I'm a very emotional, on the sleeve type of individual. And I think, as you guys can tell, I'm pretty straightforward. Now, it's taken me a bit to get to this point in authenticity and truthfulness, but I have a deep desire and love for people, especially for broken people.
Looks like we lost Cody here. See if he can get back on.
Yeah, we'll see if he can come back on here in just a second.
Tyler, just while we're waiting for him to come on, one thing I want to kind of mention is when we start feeling resentment toward our job, toward people, what is that resentment like saying to us?
Yeah, resentment is usually it's actually a sign of some type of unhealthy boundary inside myself. And I think this is where you're going with the question. And as you were talking, I think that's what I was feeling and thinking too, is I can relate to his question, because I know that this is the human thing that we go through sometimes, where when we're in the profession of helping people because we genuinely want to help people, but sometimes we start to move into that realm of expecting them to be a certain way or do a certain thing. And we start to do it more for our own gratification or our own validation or something else. And then that becomes where the resentment steps in, because now our boundaries aren't in the right space. And it goes back into the questions that I think that you were asking, Cody.
Yeah. So Cody, I said I was going to call you out. So here's the thing, like what you just said about your heart, I believe is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. You have a good heart. God gave you those gifts for a reason. God gave you these gifts to help others for a reason. God gave you the gift of masculinity and confidence and a good heart and helping people. But here's the thing. What I'm hearing is that you are going forward and doing this for some of the right reasons. And then you're also pursuing validation and using your clients for your own worth, which sets you up big time.
Which is human, by the way.
Yeah, but it sets you up. Do you understand that?
Yeah, that sounds scary. And I appreciate you saying that, because that gives me more to think about and to grow in and contend with. Because I appreciate you also, Tyler, saying that's a bit of humanity. That's a bit of our brokenness in ourselves, but very real. And that's not where I will find my validation. Correct?
Well, especially you're working with addiction, right. You're going to be let down. Like if you care a lot about your clients, the people you're helping, the people you're supporting, some will succeed, but you know how it goes, Cody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an up and down. It's an up and down process, up and down, up and down, up and down, failure after failure, along that road of progression. And if your worth is tied to those people's, like getting to the perfect recovery place, then that's going to be brutal for you. Yeah. And so there's this surrender that's got to take place of like, I do this because God asks me to do this, and I do the best that I possibly can. And I fight for truth, and I fight to help people find peace and healing. And I give the rest away. Whether they find it or not, I give that to God.
That's the challenge, Brannon. I think I can relate to what Cody's question is, because I think both you and I have been there before. And I see it more as an ongoing kind of sort of like it's an ongoing tune-up that we're trying to do when we're doing our work with other people is that if we ground ourselves to the true source, we get our answers from God, and God's saying, hey, Cody, not only are you lovable, but Cody, he's called you to be a helper in this realm for whatever reason. He's probably giving you very specific names that go along with that as you've been working in recovery. It's been the same for me. And when we operate from that fuel source, the measuring stick of our success is that we look at how full our tank is and we give it all in a day, and we go back to God and we say, hey, God, I gave my 30% today. That's all I had. Or I gave my 100% today. That's what I had. And the success is in having given what God has asked us to give. And we can go to bed with a clear conscience. We can like who we are, but occasionally start to stray off that path, and we start to get sucked into, man, does this client like me? Or if they like me, that means I'm good enough. Or if that person gets better, that means I'm a good, helper or whatever. And as when we stray off of that, we need to recalibrate ourselves back to the true source again, because otherwise we get stuck in that place of resentment. We get stuck in that place of expectations. And that's not the real reason why any of us do what we do. Yeah. If it was, we'd be terrible at our jobs.
Yeah.
But it's human. So we have to constantly bring ourselves back to that grounding and saying, you have to go back to that moment at Hope Quest over and over and over again and reground yourself to like, oh yeah, like I'm going to get my validation from the true source.
That's right. Really good. That's really good. Yeah. I would agree with you guys both and really appreciate the regrounding. I love what you just said there, Tyler, about revisiting the spaces where I've felt validated, and be reminded why I've done the work to heal myself and why I'm now doing it and what it takes. This segues me a little bit into a question, if I may ask you guys, about men who now may have some time of sobriety and recovery and have began to learn the language and enter into spaces of ministry, facilitating, whatnot. What have you guys done to keep smarter people around you, or people that can speak into your life, can motivate you, can show you what they've done in situations like where I find myself needing to continue to find motivation or continue to find and learn new language to walk with men in my area where maybe there's not a lot of other men doing that?
Do you want to answer, Tyler?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question, man. Like, so Brannon might be able to speak to this a little bit. I kind of view this thing as, we live this world, this life, and we all have different levels of progression along different lines of our lives, So as a father, I'm progressed to a certain level, and as a man in recovery, I'm progressed to a certain level, whatever that is. There's always going to be somebody that I can turn back around and help. And there's always needs to be somebody that I'm looking to as a mentor and saying, I've got to go pursue a relationship with that person. And I do that with lots of areas of my life. I do it with financial areas. I do it with spiritual areas. I've actually tried to start what I called like the advanced men's group, which was basically for guys who have gone through treatment and are now looking for that next level of like, man, I don't worry about sobriety anymore. I'm in the business of becoming the very best man I can be. Yeah. And I know Brannon has something like that going for himself right now, where we are still building a team. Like it's an ongoing thing, and we're constantly funneling new people in. And as they, have the same values and the same level of vulnerability, then we start to use those. But that's a constant cultivation. That's not like I've arrived. Look, I'm on the top of the mountain. I only turn back around and help people. I think it's a blessing, but the mountain doesn't stop until we die. Like we're going to keep climbing, and there's always going to be somebody else that we're going to be looking to, and we need to learn how to reach and cultivate as much as we need to turn back around and help.
That's good.
Yeah. I have, like Tyler said, I have a group I attend every Thursday, and it's a group that's about exploration now. We're like, it's almost philosophy that we study. We get into the depths of like trust and accountability and like different humility and different principles. It's really fun. It's fun to explore with these men and connect. But here's another thing, Cody. There's the old adage, I'm sure we've all heard it, but you're just a culmination of the 10 closest people to you. So when it comes to your fitness, your spirituality, your recovery, if you look at the 10 closest people to you, then that's about how healthy you are in those areas. And this might sound a little harsh, but part of surrounding myself with greatness is by saying no to some, is by cutting some out when it comes to the time that I spend and the energy that I spend. And it doesn't mean that I don't love them, but they, some of them can be my clients. My friends are different, and who I surround myself with as friends is very important, who I choose. And some, Cody, I don't know for you, but for me, a lot of times people are like, hey, I want your attention. I want your time. I want to take this up. And I've had to learn how to have boundaries and say no. So,
yeah. Thank you for that.
As you're hearing that, Cody, are there certain relationships in your life that are getting more time than they should, or other relationships that need more time than you're giving?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I'm going to tie this into something we were just talking about earlier, where, I mentioned entitlement from the men that I facilitate. And I think that has to do with an outlook of perfection that I have. And so, similar to Brannon, ever since when I came back from Hope Quest, which is a little over 3.5 years now, I was on fire, and I started creating groups and drawing dudes in. And so there's a group of about 5 guys now that I've met with every Thursday, Wednesday for 3 years now. And very similarly, it's a group of philosophy. We talk very similar. We get into truths. It's not just about sexual addiction. We've gone through many books already. And so now it's like we gather, we know what to talk about, we engage in each other's life. And so I actually have really healthy,
it's beautiful,
mentors and circles around me. But as I'm entering into maybe a professional place, or as I feel drawn into more responsibility, the perfection component comes back into my body and mind. And it's like, who do I need around me, or do I not have enough around me? Am I adequate enough to get into these spaces? And I think it's just an asking, like, hey, how do I do this? I think.
So just to kind of take a stab at it here. For, I don't know how long, Tyler and I have done therapy for a long, long time. And we've sat in spaces with people who are resonating in some really low levels of energy, so to speak, depression, sadness, shame, hopelessness. And, some days, we're doing 8-9 sessions for that day, and it's just one after the next, couples and it's important. I've done certain things, Cody, where I'll avoid certain movies that I don't watch, because I don't need that type of energy in my life any more than I do. We talk about Wim Hof. I go up to the river and I let the water wash through me and wash that stuff off of me. And there's a lot of different self-care stuff that I do in order to say, okay, I need to leave their energy there.
Yeah.
And then the men on Thursdays, they give to me, that group. So I need that as well. And I need outlets to process it, talk about it. So I can kind of do both, right? Mm-hmm. I can go where they are in their pain, hold that space, empathize with them, but also have enough tools that it doesn't take me out. So it takes work.
Yeah, it does. And I think I hear in you that you've got some of the makings of that already, Cody. You've got a good attitude. You've got a solid group of men that you can rely on more than just being in the helping profession, which I think is really important. Mm-hmm. And, and maybe to your question, maybe this call today is part of that process for you too, where you're calling and saying, 2 total strangers, hey, I'm on a path that has a similar trajectory to where you guys are at, and I want to learn. Like, good for you. You had the courage to come on a show like this and ask those questions. Yeah. So you're doing the right thing. And I don't know that it's about perfection. It's about there's nothing wrong with calling anybody up that you see that might know something that you don't, and asking a question. The worst that you can be told is, I don't want to talk to you. Right. Yeah. But a lot of times people love to help. People want to help. And when you learn to ask for help, it actually becomes a really a really like beneficial skill to have.
Yeah.
Cody, are you like, do you have any buddies who also help people, who also kind of mentor and help? And
yes, two guys who, ironically, and there's a lot of like God intervention in what I could go into, but two guys that kind of were found out around the same time as me. One of them is still leading a group back in my old church, and we connect relatively often. And then the other one is actually in my couples group that I created for my wife and I, and for them, so that we could see each other in a different light through all of this. So, but again, even with them, and I've told both of them this, I desire more from them. And so I think what you guys are really helping me with is that it's what I'm desiring and needing. Sure, maybe true, but it's speaking more to me than it is to their obligation in a sense, right? Like, and I really appreciate this. And Tyler, as you were just talking, I felt named well, Tyler, by you saying that even just me calling into this is a step towards like progression and learning. And I would agree that it felt vulnerable and is to pursue this, because who knows what's going to happen. But I feel a little more seen and supported just by taking this step out. And I want to affirm both of you guys for the work that you guys do, and the engagement I've gotten from both of you in courage and wisdom. Your questions have been on par, and you haven't seemed afraid to call me out, Brannon. And I think that's really neat and a gift from both of you guys. And I'm just so thankful that you guys have been willing to take me on and talk with me.
Cody, you're the man. Have you ever been to Utah?
Yeah, no.
You got to come down in September. Come to our Rising Sun conference. It's beautiful here, and
wow, yeah,
we'd love to have you. You would definitely be an asset, and it would be a benefit to many men who attend.
It would be a great benefit for you too.
Yeah.
I
want to ask you before we let you go here, just if you could think, what are maybe one or two things about recovery that are just great and awesome that you didn't even know existed until you really found recovery?
Yes. I lived with a mask for a long, long time. And my true character and self is outgoing and playful. But when you do it with a mask on because you're holding secrets and shame, your authenticity doesn't shine through. So people kind of engage with you at an arm's length. And I've come to experience that because they're not sure if what you're presenting to them is true. And I remember I first showed up to my old church, and years later, one of the guys I became close with told me, I wasn't sure about you. You seemed kind of arrogant. And so as I've entered into recovery and had help learning how to be in relationship authentically, because let's be real, 3.5 years ago, I had never really felt, I didn't know what an authentic relationship was. So to come in to learn about that out of recovery has been truly blessed. And then the story I shared earlier about truly being seen and accepted in a group of people, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like you would think that if you had parents, so for the normal dude out there, a normal person out there, right? Like they're like, yeah, I had parents. They saw me. They loved me. But it took me until 35 to really feel it, right? So like in recovery, something was exposed to me. God blessed me with an exposure and experience. And that's something that I found beautiful in recovery.
That's awesome, Cody. Thank you for sharing. You are kind of in this place where, you're experiencing what we might call some post-traumatic growth, where you've gone through some really, really dark depths. You've clawed and scratched and found in the darkness some rays of light. You climbed yourself up out of the hole, and now you're taking yourself to a higher level than you even were before you started. And in that process, it sounds like you're in this place of really, you've grasped a hold of needing to continue your own growth while at the same time wanting to help people come along. And I think that's awesome. Like, that's an indicator of actual real recovery that's starting to take place in your life. And you can feel it from you. There's strength in your voice. There's confidence in your demeanor, even though people can't see your video right now. Like, there's an inner sense of like peace that resonates from you when you talk. And that stuff is all sort of an indicator that you've got the roots of a good recovery going now, and you're finding some success. Cody, if you wouldn't mind, I know that you're kind of into that next stage of life, and you're basically helping people. How would people find you if they wanted to learn more from you?
Yeah, thank you for that. I've recently started a life coaching business. It's called soulfullyprosperous.com. And so I'm really not on a lot of social media platforms because I just haven't ventured out there yet. They've been troublesome for me in the past. So people can reach me at Cody@soulfullyprosperous.com. And my website is soulfullyprosperous.com as well. But what I feel very confident about is both my and my wife's calling into this ministry, being found out, and the trauma that has happened has called my wife into a master's program at the Seattle School of Psychology and Theology to become a therapist. And so she's in her third year under Dan Allender and all of those people there pursuing it, and loves it and feels incredibly gifted. And so it's crazy, man. We could talk more about where me and her are at and the people around us, but it's still new to me. And what I've come to, where I'm at now is, how do I give back? How do I prioritize my time to give all of myself to someone who really needs it? And so this is what I'm venturing out to right now, is this life coaching opportunity. And I'm just looking to grow so I can help others grow as well.
It's interesting. When somebody first starts recovery, they're like, I got to spend this money on therapy, and I got to go to these meetings, and I got to do this crap. I love when I see somebody make the shift into realizing that this whole thing is God calling them up, and they find their purpose. They become a humble warrior for others. And that's what it's all about. And the individuals that get there with their recovery, I see recovery sustain itself and last for their lifetime. So it's good to see that you're getting there, Cody. And it sounds like you're doing some good work.
Yes, Cody, thank you. Thank you for your willingness to come on and share today. For those of you who are listening, there's hope in what you can hear and hopefully what you can feel. If this rang a bell for you, please, share it with somebody else who might benefit from it. We appreciate you guys listening to us. You guys have an awesome day.
See you guys.
God is, amen.